Just 1 week into the 47th presidency, the Trump derangement syndrome is at an all-time high already. Is the paranoia justified? We'll find out with all that and more on tonight's episode of Up to Speed with Trip Simpson.
The following program is rated TV MAL. It contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences.
All right, and welcome back to another episode of Up to Speed with Trip Simpson. I am your host, Trip Simpson, in the building.
Commander of the armies of the North, General of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We are back. And first and foremost, before we get this live stream started, you know we got to handle business. Let's get it.
Family moving up in the business. I know you're going to look after family.
What family you talking about, Ice?
Fuck, I look invisible, nigga.
That's right. I am not invisible. So if you're watching live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button for me. All right, tonight this is gonna be a very quick episode. I only want to go for about an hour or so. I would like to take some calls, so if you put your attention on the bottom of the screen, you can see how you can call in if you'd like to give your 2 cents. But we're going to cook today. We're going to cook. I only want to do this for about an hour or so, but we're going to cook because I got a lot to say. All right? Now, before we get deep in today's topic, I want to first start off by giving my condolences to everybody who lost someone in the tragic American Airlines collision with the Black Hawk helicopter the other day, okay? I want to give my condolences. All right, I actually know several people who were close family members with a few of the victims. And honestly, it's just a really, really weird feeling because it literally could have been any of us. It literally could have been any of us. I've flown into DCA thousands of times, and I could only imagine what had to be going through their minds with them about to land and suddenly the unthinkable happening. Okay, so I definitely want to give out my condolences. Now, real quick, I told myself that I didn't want to politicize the situation, right? But the foolishness I'm seeing from the liberal media and Black Twitter is just disgusting. It's disgusting. Okay, they couldn't even give this shit 12 hours. 12 hours without blaming Donald Trump. They couldn't go 12 hours. And then the reasoning behind their complaints was asinine. They're saying because he changed the FAA agency head, it was his fault. I mean, obviously, if there was a need to change agency heads, then there was clearly something wrong in the first place. Also, changing agency heads has no bearing on what happens in simple day-to-day operations. This was a textbook landing attempt with a Black Hawk helicopter being allowed to fly directly in its path. That has nothing to do with Trump. That has nothing to do with Trump and more to do with who was hired for what position and what their level of competency is for their job. It's funny though. It's real funny though, because the same group of people who fought Trump for a freak accident that happened only a week into his presidency are the same ones who have nothing to say about Biden cowardly retreating from Afghanistan, leading to the deaths of 13 troops and the loss of billions of dollars worth of weaponry and apparatus to the goddamn Taliban. They don't got nothing to say about that. We've been fighting the Taliban for 20 years. You retreat like a coward and leave them with all them weapons. 13 troops die in the crosshairs and nobody bats an eye. But that's just one example of Biden's many screw-ups, all right? But we're not gonna get into that right now, all right? I also wanna address my family and my beloved friends who work in the federal government, all right? Because there are a lot of them are shaking in their boots right now. They're scared about their job. You know what I mean? I get it. I definitely get it. You know, if it was my job on the line, you know, I'd be worried too. All right? And I don't want or wish for any of them to be fired. Right? But I would like for the same level of understanding that we gave you when the shoe was on the other foot. That's right. Yes, there are thousands of federal government workers who may or may not be facing termination. Right? But we didn't scold you guys like this when Biden and Harris were trying to fire us for not getting the jab. Do you remember that? Do you remember? Because I remember. My mother had to step away from almost 30 years of teaching. She was trying to get to 30 years so she could reach the maximum potential of her retirement. She had to retire at 29 because of the Biden-Harris policy on the jab. Okay? I had to spend thousands of dollars on a lawyer to keep from losing my job. I had to spend thousands of dollars to keep from losing my job because of this administration. But I didn't scold you guys and try to make it seem like you guys were traitors and all this other stuff because of who you supported. And after all that shit happened, you still went and supported Biden and Harris. And I don't fault you for it. I don't like you any less. I'm not questioning your ability or your intelligence any less. There were 8,000 military personnel who were fired. Okay? There were hundreds of people fired from DC government. There were nurses, healthcare workers, all fired. You know, a bunch of guys from LAFD, in New York FD, fired. And the Biden-Harris regime was responsible for this. And y'all voted for them because it was in your best interest. And nobody faulted you for it. Why can't we be afforded the same grace for voting for our best interest? How come we can't be afforded that grace? See, the accountability doesn't flow both ways. And it's really unfortunate. Like I said, I don't want to see anyone be fired. All right? I don't want to see anyone be fired unjustly. Okay? Because I understand what's going on. But you guys can't fault us for still supporting Trump just because your job's on the chopping block. Because you guys still supported Biden and Harris when our jobs were on the chopping block. Now, another crazy thing that I've been observing lately is the straight up lies being told about Trump and the lack of accountability when the shit is proven wrong. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? So there was a popular meme. Let me get that up. It was a popular meme that was going around about 2 or 3 days ago. Give me a second. Let me get that up. Let me get this meme up. This is what was going on. This was going around, right? This meme. All right, this is the meme that was going around a few days ago. All right, And they were spreading this meme around like it was the gospel of Jesus Christ. Okay? They said that, and let me read. Trump ordered a federal spending freeze, which he did. And then they said, here are some of the programs that could be impacted, right? They said Medicaid. They said school breakfast and lunch program. They said Section 8 rental assistance. They said Title I education grants. They said TANF. They said state grants for childcare. They said Head Start. They said the special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children. They said the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They said EPA grants. They said all of this crap that was supposed to happen, that was all a lie. It was all a lie. Let's get to Amanda Seales' post, right? Amanda Seales made a post. Let's get to that. We're going to expose this foolishness today. We're going to expose it. Let's get to Amanda Seales. This was Amanda Seales' post about it, right? So Amanda Seales makes a post. She reposted someone and says, urgent, the federal funding freeze hits at 5 p.m. Everyone will feel this. I ran the numbers. I analyzed the patterns. This isn't just politics. It's an economic disaster waiting to happen. No matter who you are, your job, rent, healthcare, and retirement could be impacted. Right? This freeze shifts the cost of your federal funding. Federal funding doesn't vanish, it moves your pocket. All right? A 2013 shutdown cost the economy $24 billion. This is what they're saying. This freeze will destroy jobs, healthcare, construction, retail, public sector, small business. Even stable jobs aren't safe. Right? This is what she posted to stir up fear and anxiety. But it pans out that none of this stuff was even true. None of this stuff was true. Because in actuality, the Trump administration had already told people what was going to go down. Let's see if we can get this article a little bigger, right? The Trump administration already reported that they weren't going to do certain things for the freeze, but people went left anyway. All right, this is an article from CNBC the day before, right before Trump came out with what his actual freeze was, right? It says key points. President Donald Trump ordered a temporary freeze on federal aid in an effort to review funding for causes that don't align with his agenda. The Education Department said the freeze will not affect federal Pell Grants, all right? The White House on Monday ordered a pause on federal grants and loans, according to a memo. The Department of Education said the freeze will not affect student loans or financial aid for college, even though there was a bunch of people on TikTok freaking out, talking about they weren't going to be able to get FAFSA loans. Then it also goes on to say the freeze, which could affect billions of dollars in aid, noted an exception for Social Security and Medicare. The pause does not include assistance provided directly to individuals, according to the memo. Okay, so what does that mean? That means in the memo that President Trump sent out stating that he was going to have a spending freeze, he stated that people's individual benefits would not be affected. But yet you had people running to the internet talking about they were going to shut down FAFSA student loans, and they were going to shut down welfare and shut down Section 8, and they didn't do any of that. Where's the apology? Where's the apology? Where's the retraction? Where is it? Where's Baller Alert? Where's the Shade Room? Where's the Breakfast Club? Where are the people who spread all this information at now? Why aren't they giving a retraction? All of this shit is fake news. And I seen all of you niggas posting it. Where is your retraction? Where's the correction? Even though Trump never put out anything stating he would cut any of those things, the lies spread like wildfires. But why? Why? Because you niggas operate in a constant state of fear, and your factory settings are to be victims. We are living in the land of supreme opportunity, and you walk around like somebody is oppressing you. Meanwhile, you got foreigners coming over here running circles around your ass. You niggas is out here talking about you oppressed. I heard a nigga man on TV, I think it was Ryan Clark, the other day talking about we're oppressed because Lamar Jackson might not get a third MVP trophy. You niggas is out here talking about we're oppressed because Beyonce didn't get her 50th Emmy. See, that's the problem right there. That's why you think you need scams like DEI. Because you Negroes only focus on sports, music, and food that will kill you by the time you turn 60. That's all you niggas focus on. You ain't teaching your kids to excel at STEM. Now, I'm not saying it's everybody. I'm speaking in general terms, but the proof is in the goddamn pudding. Where do we see blacks excelling? Where do we see blacks excelling? Sports and music. That's why the NFL and NBA are majority black, right? That's why you see them in positions of prominence all throughout basketball and football. But see, I'll give you an example. Indian parents press their kids out to be excelling in STEM and in medicine. That's why you see an overwhelming amount of Indian doctors and Indians in engineering and tech fields. It ain't because of racism or lack of DEI. It's because there's a lack of interest from the black community in the things that matter. There's a lack of interest in the black community for how the world goes around. All you want to do is entertain people. All you want to do is entertain people. And unfortunately, there aren't enough spots available to get everybody paid off that. But anyway, let's get into this whole hoopla. Let's get into this whole hoopla about President Trump's alleged enacting of racist policies. Okay? Now, over the course of the last week, there was two major things that stuck out when people were giving their complaints about his executive orders. Okay? The first is going to be this whole civil rights rollback that people are whining and complaining about. And the second is going to be the pardon of the two DC officers that were found guilty of killing a black guy in DC who was riding around on a dirt bike. I think his name was Karan Brown, I believe. Karan something Brown. All right? Those are the two major things that people have been calling racist, right? So let's get into the first issue, right? Which is going to be the recent rollback of an LBJ executive order involving federal contractors and DEI initiatives. Now, the false narrative being tossed around out there is that President Trump basically dissolved the 1964 Civil Rights Bill, which is completely and utterly preposterous. In fact, the president doesn't have the power to do such a thing, especially with executive orders. What Trump actually did was end an unfair rule that made contractors have to hire a certain amount of women and minorities or face losing their contracts. Again, that is an unfair rule. As a business owner myself, I don't care who you are. I don't care what race you are or how you like to have sex. My focus is trying to hire the best fit for my company. That's it, and that's all. But it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me because these Negroes out online are losing it. Your federal civil rights discrimination laws have not been taken away. In fact, one could say they've been upgraded at this point. Now, why do I say that? I say that because DEI and affirmative action have been a scam from their inceptions. They have been scams. All right, and let's get into it. Let's get into it. Because I know y'all won't believe me, so I'll pull up an article from a few years ago that breaks it down. All right. Now, this article was made before the whole DEI shit was a thing. All right, so let's get into it. All right. Black people only comprise of 4% of DEI positions in the workplace. This is from Black Enterprise Magazine, which is definitely a liberal publication. Hopefully everybody can see that. All right. So it says, following the 2020 death of George Floyd, companies across various industries have made announcement after announcement that they would invest in diversity and inclusion initiatives, often using the position of Chief Diversity Officer to direct these efforts. A report from career site Zippia details that of these positions, only 4% of the roles were occupied by Black people in 2023. Only 4%. Now let's pause right there. If there were only 4% of these roles occupied by Black people, and this is right after George Floyd, and meaning the companies only started to actually do the DEI shit after George Floyd, how low do you think it was before that? This shit is all a lie. Black people do not benefit from DEI at all. You get 4%. Your ancestors died, got bit by dogs, sprayed down by water hoses, so white dudes with wigs on could take everything from you. And this shit proves it. DEI proves it, because everybody in their mama who isn't a white man gets the benefits over you. You get 4%. And I guarantee you, of that 4%, it's probably 0.5% that goes to straight Black men. The rest is probably going to gay Blacks and gay and Black women. But anyway, let's get back into the article. All right? Let's get back into it. All right, so it says, according to Rand Ayers, senior economist at Revelio Labs, this suggests that pledges many companies issued post-George Floyd were not followed through with intent. Ayers told NBC News, I always say that it is easy to make up public statements and commitments because no one will eventually check if you're committed to these things that you committed to. I can say I will fully be vegan by 2025 because no one will ever call me in 2025 and ask me if I'm actually fully vegan. And that's really what is going on here. In 2020, a lot of companies made big commitments, big statements around the DEI roles and goals. And as we're observing, turning that tide, I think that it's very timely that we actually look into companies to see if they have kept up with those big statements. Now, I'm not going to get into this whole article. I'll post the link so you can read it yourself. I just wanted to get to that point, okay? I just wanted to get to that point. And the point is that you do not benefit from DEI programs. Now, I know a lot of people that watch my show live in the DC area, right? So there's a lot of people in the DC area who have good positions, especially in the federal government. Well, you are an anomaly because most of the country, the DEI programs don't hire Black people. And I'll even say this, most of the Black people hired in the DC area, it isn't because of DEI. It's because a lot of us live here, and those of us who are qualified, we get those positions. But DEI has nothing to do with it. But let me slow down real quick. Because what I'm about to tell y'all is very, very important. All right? You scary ass niggas on the internet need to understand something. None of this shit Trump is doing right now has anything to do with trying to stick it to or take anything away from Black people. Okay, in case you niggas haven't noticed, we've been cooked a long time ago. We've been cooked. There is nothing more that can be done to us of any significance at this point because we've already been defeated by the Democratic Party and the liberals for damn near 70 years. It was in fact LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society program that put us in the predicament that we're in at this point. And how do we know this? We know this because Senator Patrick Moynihan detailed every problem surrounding these programs in a letter to the Nixon administration. Okay? He detailed this shit to the T. Now, real quick, I want y'all to put y'all attention span caps on real quick, because you're going to need your attention span real quick, because I'm going to go through some of the letter from Moynihan to Nixon, and I want y'all to tell me if y'all don't see some of the problems we're dealing with to this day that could have been addressed a long time ago. Now, before we get into the Moynihan letter, I'm going to first go over what the actual policy of the Great Society was. Okay? First, we need to understand what is LBJ's Great Society. All right? Because prior to these programs, blacks were doing just fine socioeconomically, contrary to popular belief. All right, but give me a second. Hold on. Let's read what the Great Society is. All right. The Great Society, hopefully y'all can see that on the screen. All right. The Great Society was a series of domestic programs enacted by President Lyndon B. Johnson in the United States from 1964 to 1968, with the stated goals of totally eliminating poverty and racial injustice in the country. Johnson first used the phrase in May 1964 speech at Ohio University. Major new federal programs addressing civil rights, education, medical care, urban problems, rural poverty, and transportation were launched. In scope and sweep, the Great Society was comparable to the 1930s New Deal domestic programs of previous Democrat President FDR. Okay? Some of the Great Society initiatives were derived from New Frontier proposals, which had stalled during the Kennedy administration. Johnson's success depended on his skills of persuasion and the Democratic landslide victory to the 64 elections, which brought many new liberals into Congress and made the House of Representatives the most liberal since 38. All right? So basically, it goes on to say they started the War on Poverty, they started the Economic Opportunity Act of 1964, they started the Food Stamp Act, they started Elementary and Secondary Education Act, Medicaid. All of these liberal programs were started by Nixon. And all of these programs black people are still dependent on to this day. All right, so that's the Great Society in a nutshell. Now, it was Senator Patrick Moynihan, okay, who tried to warn the incoming Nixon administration, because Moynihan saw what was going on from 64 to 68 under LBJ. So once the Nixon administration took helm, he tried to warn them about these policies and the impact that it would have on the black community. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up his letter. We're going to pull up Moynihan's letter. I'm not going to read this whole 10-page letter. I'm just going to get to the main parts. All right? Not going to read this whole 10-page letter. I want to get to the main parts. All right? This one right here, okay? Young Negro families are achieving income parity with white families, okay? So, some of this is good, but a lot of it gets bad, okay? So, outside of the South, young husband, wife, Negro families have 99% the income of whites. For example, for families headed by a male aged 25 to 34, the proportion was 87%. Thus, it may be this ancient gap is finally closing. Income reflects employment, and this changed dramatically in the 60s. Blacks continue to have twice the employment rates of whites, but these were down for both groups. In 1969, the rate for married men of Negro and other races was only 2.5%. Teenagers, on the other hand, continued their appalling rates. Black occupations improved dramatically. The number of professionals and technical employees doubled in the period. This was 2.5 times the increase for whites. In 1965, Negroes and other races provided for 10% of the other than college teachers. This is roughly their proportion of the population, 11%, right? Now, so basically this paragraph right here, they're giving you the good. They're saying employment was on the rise, right? But here's where the problem started. Female-headed families. Here's where the problem starts. This problem does not get better, it gets worse, he says. In 1969, the proportion of husband-wife families of Negro and other races declined once again, this time to 68.7%. So even back then in the 70s, right, they were saying the 68.8%, that was a decline, because in the 60s we were at 80%. In the 50s we were at 90%. Now, in the 70s, we're at 68.7. The illegitimacy ratio rose once again, this time to 29.4% of all births. The right ratio rose more sharply, but it was still at only 4.9%. All right. So increasingly, the problem of Negro poverty is the problem of the female-headed family. In 1968, 56% of Negro families with income under $3,000 were female-headed. In 1968, for the first time, the number of poor Negro children in female families, 2.2 million, was greater than the number in male-headed families. Then it goes on to talk about social pathology. The incidence of antisocial behavior among young black males continues to be extraordinarily high. So let's stop right there. So we have a decline in the black family. Now you're starting to see social pathology. Apart from white racial attitudes, this is the biggest problem Black America faces, and in part it helps shape white racial attitudes. Black Americans injure one another because blacks live in de facto segregated neighborhoods and go to de facto segregated neighborhoods. The socially stable elements of the black population, he's talking about the two-parent homes, cannot escape the socially pathological ones. Routinely, their children get caught up in the antisocial patterns of others. So what is he saying? What is he saying? He's saying that the single mother homes are starting to turn out pathologically defunct children. And the spread of these single mother homes is starting to turn out pathologically whatever he said, bad neighborhoods, basically, for lack of better terms. It's starting to turn out bad neighborhoods. And he's saying that even the kids who grow up in stable households in these bad neighborhoods still end up getting caught up in the foolishness because they're surrounded by foolishness. It's very simple. It's very simple. Hopefully you guys can understand what I'm getting at here. This is where the problem starts. And Senator Patrick Moynihan, because this is a long letter, so I'm not gonna read it all, but he details everything in this letter. Now, I don't know if Nixon was gonna fix it because Nixon ended up getting impeached and ended up having to step down. But the problem was identified and nobody picked up on it. So, like I said, Moynihan pointed this out. Nothing was done to prevent the further damage, and look at us now. Look at us now. And it's funny too. It's funny because if we were to look at the actual results of the 70 years of social programs and affirmative action and DEI initiatives, they haven't really benefited blacks at all. As a matter of fact, none of the liberal policies that black people adopted and still champion for today have actually been of any benefit to black society as a whole. Think about it. Think about it. We can start with abortion. Since Roe versus Wade, 23 million black babies have been deleted. But then y'all sit up and y'all complain about the Hispanics taking shit over. Well, the Hispanics are deep as hell in this country because off the top, they follow cultural rule number 1, self-preservation. Self-preservation. If I'm not mistaken, there's about 60 or 70 million of them in the country legally right now. I'm talking just legally. Okay? The U.S. Hispanic population has increased from about 4 million people in 1960 to 32 million in 1997 to damn near 70 million right now in 2025. And guess what? Abortion is taboo in most Latino cultures. And by taboo, meaning they don't do it. So, one of you silly ass Negroes, please inform me once again how abortion is beneficial to black culture. In the 60s, Hispanics were at less than 4% of the US population. They are now at almost 20%. In the 60s, we were 11%. We are now at 13. 13. We rose 2% in 50 years, 60, 70 years. With the mass abortions that took place in the last 50, 60 years, we probably would be at upwards of about 80 million people. But to my point, you Negroes fell. You Negroes fell for the deadly tricks of the left, and they convinced you that smoking your own babies was a benefit. They convinced you. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, hit that like button. Hit that like button. Help us get in the algorithm. And also, shout out to my man BX from the Bronx. Shout out to him. Thanks for tuning in. I know we're a little early today, but I got to head out to Richmond, Virginia tonight. Baby girl's in a cheer competition, so, you know, wish her luck. But anyways, we gonna keep cooking. Now let's get to the second shit that black people hold up. That's a liberal policy, right? Welfare. Now, welfare. This was the systemic takedown of the black family mastered to perfection by white liberals on your dumb asses. And yes, this is another Great Society program or LBJ experiment that catapulted the black community into abysmal failure. Okay? Like we highlighted in the Moynihan letter, this is ultimately what led to the rise of female-led households, which they already knew was going to be a failure because they had the numbers to back it up back then, and they decided to keep this train in service. Okay? It's to the point now where niggas feel entitled to these funds. They feel entitled to funds from the government. All right, check this out real quick. Let me show y'all what I'm talking about. All right?
South Memphis mother.
Hold up. Where we at? Hold up. Give me a second. Damn it. Okay. All right. Check this out.
Who depends on food stamps to feed her 2 kids isn't sure where their next meal is going to come from, especially living in a food desert. Tennessee's system is delayed again for the second time in a few months. causing instant food insecurity for a lot of families. Thank you for joining us at 10. I'm Pepper Baker. Angela Briggs first told us about the challenges she was facing to get her food stamps back in March. Hers was one of several cases we asked state lawmakers to help resolve, which was the delay in distributing benefits. And within hours, we started seeing results. Our Jay Shakur reports Briggs is once again dealing with the same issues. And Jay, when was Angela supposed to receive her benefits?
Pepper, Angela was supposed to receive her food.
Ladies, hopefully that audio is coming in clear. I know sometimes I get an echo when I play these YouTube videos. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear everything without an echo. If there is an echo, I'll just readjust a couple things and we'll get that together.
Food stamps today, but she says when she checked, her balance was zero without word or warning from the Department of Human Services.
I didn't get a letter. I didn't get a phone call on my appointment, and I didn't get a letter that said that I was terminated. I woke up this morning, called my stamp to get my stamps on my card, and it wasn't.
Nearly 5 months later, and Angela Briggs, after having her food...
Now let's pause right there. This is an able-bodied young woman who can go out and work, but instead, she's sitting around waiting on the government to put food on the table for her. This is the problem, okay? Because we have generation after generation after generation of black families, if you want to call them families, who think that this is the proper way to live. This is the problem. They feel entitlement from the government. An able-bodied, healthy mind person, she looked like she's about 35, 40 years old. Her first instinct isn't to get up, go out and work to earn the food. No. The government owes this to her. Where's my money? That's her attitude.
Food stamps reinstated is once again without. Now she's frustrated, wondering how she'll feed her 2 boys.
Balance is $0.
Briggs lives in South Memphis, a part of the Bluff City with limited healthy and affordable food options. And now that her expected food stamps didn't arrive Friday, she's fearful she will have to go months once again without any resolution in the middle of a food desert.
It's no grocery stores. I stay in the heart of South Memphis. I'm trying to feed my kids and I'm trying to pay my bills. I don't have transportation to go to like the food pantry, and the food pantry don't deliver.
Briggs says she's dealing with the...
This is everybody else's problem. This is everybody else's problem because you decided to have kids out of wedlock with somebody who God knows where he is at this point. God knows what his occupation was when you decide to let him hit it raw. Because you made that choice, the rest of us are now expected to pay your bills and to take care of your kids and pay your rent. This is insane, bro. But unfortunately, this is a large portion of the black community. Hence, this is why a lot of people don't take us seriously. I got another example for you. Hold on. Check this one out. Got another example for you.
Coverage you can count on begins with several complaints from people across the CSRA into the News Channel 6 newsroom about food stamp benefits. News Channel 6's Renata DuBose joins us live in the newsroom with the story. And Renata, most of the complaints are people who have not received their food stamps.
Dee, what this all boils down to is a delay following a fire at the Division of Family and Children's Services office on Fenwick Street back in June. DFACS began operating in a temporary location since then, delaying food stamp renewals as they handle additional workloads. Recipients, in turn, are now faced with figuring out how they will eat this holiday season.
You either gonna buy toys or food. Which one? You can't leave a child starving.
One by one, people depending on food stamp benefits marched into the local DFACS office on Bungalow Road to see about why their money has not been issued.
I've been out here every day this week for food stamps, a renewal that I did on time.
She been out there every day that week to go get her food stamps, but not to look for a job. telling you, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. It's our responsibility to take care of her life.
Taniqua Rhodes tells us she has 2 children who she must now spend additional money on to feed after DFACS workers told her the renewal she submitted on time is still processing. And it's a total of 7 children who depend on Antoinette D, who chose not to share her last name.
I completed mine.
7 children and no man in the house. This is an abomination. This is an abomination. But the government is supposed to sit up and support this. Y'all lucky I'm not in charge. Because if I was in charge, I'd cut it all off. The only people who would get food stamps and welfare under me would be people who are mentally retarded. That's it. Maybe the elderly. You got to be over 75. You're over 75, I might cut you some slack. But other than that, I'm not giving you nothing. Instead, what I would do is I would take those funds, a portion of those funds that people spend on promoting broken homes, and I would say, okay, if you're a young married couple, you're just starting off in life, we'll give you assistance for 4 years. But the husband has to be either enrolled in some type of vocational school or in college. After the 4th year, you will be discharged from the system. But that's it. I would use it to promote strong families instead of dividing families. Because clearly this system doesn't work. Go to any inner city in America. Let's use DC, for example. Go to Southeast DC. 95% of the apartment complexes east of the river and southeast are welfare Section 8 recipients. And female-led households. This is not a dig against females. I'm just calling a spade a spade. They're female-led households, and it's like living in hell. There's piss all over the floor. There's trash in the elevators. There's roaches everywhere. There's kids running around doing whatever. And this is all from government. And this is all funded by the government. All funded by the government. So yeah, y'all lucky. Trump spared you. Yeah, Trump didn't freeze the Section 8 and all that spending. I would have froze it. I would have froze it. I would have froze it. And I would have made the generation right now that would be feeling it from the freeze, you would be the example to the upcoming generations of what not to be like. I'm sorry, I would sacrifice your ass right now in a heartbeat for the good of the community. I would do it. Because it's got to end somewhere.
Certification on time and turning out my paperwork, and I haven't received my children's food stamps. You know, I got 3 additional kids that I take care of.
News Channel 6 learned the delay people told us about stems from a fire in June that destroyed the Fenwick Street office. Department of Social Services issued this statement saying the division leadership sought and received permission from the USDA Food and Nutrition Service to delay the food stamp renewals for June, July, and August, limiting the effect of the fire on Richmond County recipients, while division staff set up a temporary.
So there we have it, man. There we have it. No need to beat a dead horse. There we have it. Right? And I want to make one thing clear. I want to make one thing clear. The black community is the blueprint. They are the blueprint. Now, can you guess what they're the blueprint of? What are we the blueprint for? Can anybody guess? What are we the blueprint for? It's simple. It's simple. We are the blueprint for communism. This is what happens when you let communists take over. They spend. And by spend, I mean giving it all out with this free shit. And then one day you look up and all the resources are spent and you're standing in a goddamn bread line. Next thing you know, it's famine and poverty everywhere, just like the black community. This is why people on the right are so steadfast against socialism and communism, because it leads to bankruptcy. It leads to what the current state of the black community is. That's just the blueprint for what they want to do to the rest of the country. Famine and poverty everywhere. Violence and gangs taking over the streets. Go to any black neighborhood in the inner city. Like I said, it's like living in a goddamn third world communist country. So yeah, I adamantly and wholeheartedly reject these policies. And that's going to bring us to the whole affirmative action and DEI conversation. That's going to bring us to that. And that's and I want to get into that because that's another one of the creations by LBJ's Great Society that was literally of no benefit to black Americans, right? And the main thing, and some of y'all ain't gonna like this, but when we're talking about no benefit to black Americans, we gotta talk about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We gotta talk about that. See, LBJ was slick too, right? So instead of specifying these policies being specific to the American Negro or the descendants of U.S. slavery, they used a more broad term. They used the term minority, all right? Which literally means at this point, everybody except a heterosexual Protestant white male who's not a veteran or disabled. And if you were to actually look into who benefits from affirmative action and DEI, it's mostly white women and white LGBTQ people. Then it's female immigrants. Then it's black women. Then it's black LGBTQs. Then it's male immigrants. Then it's veterans. Then it's handicapped people. And then black men and white men. But white men are already at the head of the food table, allegedly. So that leaves straight black men dead last on the list of a policy that they fought and died for. It's a goddamn scam. And I'm happy Trump is putting a stop to it. Think about it. After damn near 70 years of this shit, black progress has come to a complete halt. And depending on what statistics you're looking at, we've gone into a decline that at this point is damn near impossible to come back from. I tell you what, look up the median income for gay white men, then lesbian white women, then white men, then white women, then black men, then black women. Okay? Then look up the median income for other ethnicities like Asians, Arabs, East Indians, and Africans. And when I say Africans, I'm talking about from the continent. Okay? Black men, we're slightly above black women at the goddamn bottom of the list. So tell me, black men and black women, how does DEI benefit us? How? For a black man, it's a goddamn joke. And I'll give you an example, right? A personal example, all right? So for those of you who don't know, I used to be a pro bliggity black. And shout out to my man Blanchard for that hilarious terms. Y'all can check Blanchard out on IG at He Is Blanchard. I believe that's his page. All right, but anyways, I used to be a pro black. And I actually went viral in 2016 for a rant I made on Facebook blasting racist police officers. All right, it went viral because, as you all know, I'm a firefighter. So to see a fireman talking crazy like that, about the cops was shocking, to say the least. And for the record, I still stand on what I said. I meant it when I said it. Now, would I go that hard at this age? And knowing what I know now about how we're being basically manipulated by the liberal media? Probably not. But for the evidence that I saw at the time, it looked as if the officers had killed this guy from Baton Rouge for selling CDs outside of the corner store. That's what it looked like, right? Could have been more to the story. I don't know. All I saw was the video. But the video was crazy. So like I said, I gave my 2 cents on it. Now, this incident sparked a whole bunch of heat towards me at my job. Granted, the fire chief at the time didn't discipline me at all for it, right? I did desk duty for about 2 to 3 months. Then I went back on the street. No harm, no foul, right? We have a period where if you do something, right, and you don't get any paperwork or any charges put on you after 75 days, then everything's expired, right? They can't do anything to you after that point. So I thought, but then what happened was another high-ranking assistant chief that was basically the number 2 in charge decided to take me back off the street and then ultimately tried to recharge me for the same incident that I had already been cleared of. And make no mistake about it. This particular chief was known to be an asshole towards everyone, I give him that, but especially towards black men. Mind you, DC is a majority black Democrat town with a black Democrat mayor and a majority black Democrat city council. So there's DEI and EEO specialists everywhere. Everywhere you turn, there's DEI and EEO. So you would think that a black man with more than a valid claim against a white chief who illegally was targeting me, you would think I had a claim. And when I say illegally, he had 0 grounds. The DEI and EEO reps from the department basically laughed in my face. They laughed in my face. The only reason I got out of that situation is because I finally got a hold of the main chief, right, the fire chief at the time, who had no idea about what was going on. And I showed him how much dirt I had on the person who was trying to set me up, and I got everything handled it myself without the DEI. But I don't want to get into all the legal measures I had to take, but just know it was insane, because all that could have got handled on a smaller scale. But to my point, the DEI is not here for heterosexual black men. How can I prove this? I got a gay homie that was on the job. I think he might have been fired or something like that. But I think he might even come back. He was a gay mixed guy. Anybody on the job, you know what I'm talking about. Shout out to that guy. That's my homie. I'm not gonna mention his name. But this motherfucker used to file EEO complaints for breakfast and won them shits every single time. And I gotta admit, a lot of his EEO complaints ended up helping out the entire department. So yeah, he used his gay advantage for good at times, for sure. But if I gotta call a spade, most of it, and when I say most of it, most of the stuff he filed was BS, and he knows it. But to the point, because he was LGBTQ, they had to walk on eggshells around that nigga. And to this day, the rumor is he still might get his job back if he wants it. So yeah, that's what pretty much stamped that shit for me. So as a heterosexual black male with a decent career, a successful small business, a wife, 4 kids in private school, I can tell you that DEI, affirmative action, and most liberal policies are of no use to me, and I hope to God Trump shuts it all down. Straight up. Now, let's get to the second alleged issue that black folks are having with Trump, okay? Now, this is very popular in the DC area. I'm not sure how far it spread nationwide, but Trump went and pardoned 2 DC police officers who were blamed for the death of a man named Karan Hilton Brown. Karan Hilton Brown. Now, before we get into this, I want to show you guys what Baller Alert posted on their IG page about it. All right? This is what Baller Alert posted. Let's get to Baller Alert. All right. Second. Share this page. Hold on. What the heck is going on here? Give me a second. Let me try to get this back up. All right, here we go. All right, boom. Can y'all see that? That's from Baller Alert. Okay? So, Baller Alert says, Trump pardons DC officers convicted in Karan Hilton Brown. Trump has issued full and unconditional pardons to DC Police Lieutenant Andrew Zabaski and Officer Terrence Sutton, both convicted of their roles in the death of 20-year-old Karan Hilton Brown. So blah, blah, blah. You can go to Baller Alert, you can read all that. We ain't gonna read all that. But what I want y'all to do is I want y'all to look at this, okay? Because they are intentionally trying to make this about race. Let me show you something. I'm gonna go through the pictures on this post. That's Karan. That's one of the officers. Boom. All right. They are intentionally trying to make this about race, when in fact, it isn't about race. There were more than just white officers on the scene who were involved in this. But you don't see the picture of any of those guys on this post. Why is that? Because they want to try to make this about race, like I said. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, Karan put himself in this situation. Karan put himself in this situation. All right, now, I'm not going to tell the story. I'm going to let the news clip tell you the story, because this case was very, very complex. Hold on real quick. We got someone on Facebook. Shout out to Sam Johnson. He says it's bad policing. The officer targeted him. They knew each other. Okay. The officer targeted him because he knew who he was running with. What they don't say is that there was a shooting earlier that day, and that Karan came back, in fact, to retaliate for that shooting. And once the police saw him, he tried to speed off. Now, granted, it's illegal to chase people on a dirt bike and all that stuff in DC. It's definitely illegal. The cops chased him, and they ended up finding a firearm on him. But I'm gonna let the news clip play, and Sam, if you want to call up, hit the link, and then we can go back and forth. You know what I mean? It ain't nothing. We can talk about it. If you got enough evidence to prove me wrong, I'll give you that. But from what I'm seeing, I think there's a lot to this. So, anyways, let's get to it.
2 years ago, a man was killed in a moped accident. His name, Karan Hilton Brown.
Hold on. Damn it. Give me a second. This thing is acting slow. Give me a second, guys. All right, here we go. Should be it right here. All right, can y'all see that? Good.
DC police officers were seen on video trying to pull him over and following him. He was riding a moped on a sidewalk and he didn't have on a helmet. Good evening, I'm Leslie Foster.
And I'm Lorenzo Hall. Those officers on trial for murder while on duty for the first time anyone can really remember. Today, 12 jurors finally hearing some of the key evidence. Our Bruce Leshan just left the courtroom and joins us now live. And Bruce, a lot of folks watching this trial.
Absolutely. Officer Terrence Sutton charged with second-degree murder in the 2020 death of Karan Hilton Brown during a police chase. He's in the courtroom listening carefully, watching carefully as prosecutors open this case against him. Sutton's supervisor, Lieutenant Andrew Zabowski, is on trial with him, accused of conspiracy to try and cover up what happened. A fiery start to a historic trial. With the victim's mother listening, prosecutor Ahmed Mukhtar Bassett pointing at Officer Terrence Sutton and telling jurors that man right there murdered Karan Hilton Brown. He did it with his police car, with conscious disregard of the extreme danger of death or serious bodily injury.
We got to stop this. Because they're acting like he went and ran this guy over, right? Karan ran from the police for a reason. He ran from the police because he had an illegal firearm on him and he had drugs on him. That's why he ran. The police didn't just pop up and be like, oh, let's just go get him for no reason. No, he ran for a reason. We'll get into it though.
Correct. Hilton Brown's death caught on body-worn camera video. Lieutenant Andrew Zabowski accused of conspiring with Sutton to cover up the 3-minute-long police pursuit before Hilton Brown rode his rented electric scooter in front of an SUV on Kennedy Street Northwest and was hit and killed, allegedly starting the conspiracy even as Hilton Brown lay dying. Police chased him on suspicion of riding a scooter on the sidewalk and without a helmet.
Justice for Karan!
The young father's death in 2020 touched off days of protests and violent clashes between officers and demonstrators outside the 4th District Police Station in Northwest D.C.
Y'all notice it's never this much enthusiasm when it's black on black. It's never this much. Never this much. Police accidentally killed this dude, not on purpose. They didn't go out to kill this guy. He died because he was running from them and got hit by an SUV. Everybody's out in the street. They want to break up shit and loot and call out the cops. But black guy shoots up a whole block, kids get killed. You don't see none of this.
Even as the nation grappled with racial justice and the police murder of George Floyd.
My child was human. He didn't deserve that. He wasn't out here robbing and stealing and doing all that. No.
The police officers were part of a crime suppression unit, and their lawyers allege that Hilton Brown was in Brightwood Park to retaliate after an earlier dispute. Hilton Brown would be alive today. Lawyer J. Michael Hannon told jurors if he'd stopped his moped, he might have been arrested with a weapon, he might have been arrested with drugs, but he would be alive.
Now that is a fact. You see, that's the part that nobody wants to talk about. He came back to the park to participate in a retaliatory event for something that happened earlier. Now let's just say the police didn't chase him. Let's just say the police said, oh, no suspicion here. He's just a regular guy who we might know, but hey, he's probably not doing anything wrong here. Let's say he shot up the park with the firearm that he had on and a kid got killed. Then what? Then you be asking why the police didn't do nothing. Like I say, this is an interesting case, man. A lot of people are divided on the situation, right? But I understand why Trump did what he did. Because as a first responder in DC, I talk to a lot of cops in DC. And their main reference point as to why morale is so low in the department is because no one wants to take the risk of losing their pension by going above and beyond the call of duty, only to get roasted for doing so. All right, just like my career, firefighting, right? Police work is not a cut and dry thing. Things go wrong. Okay? Like I said earlier, they chased a guy who they believed was headed to the park to get retaliation for something that happened earlier in the park that day. So to try and mitigate another murder, or even possibly, like I said, a child being struck, they pursued this young man because they believed he was armed and was about to do something ridiculous. Turns out he did have an illegal weapon on him. Turns out he did. So here's the question. Do they risk letting a crazy shootout occur in the middle of a damn park where the kids are innocent, right? In the middle of the park where there are innocent kids, bystanders, all that? Or do they act on their police instinct and try to stop the potential threat? What do you do if you're a cop? Right? Do you get the threat up out of there, or do you say the hell with it? You know what? I'm not about to lose my pension. My kid's about to go to college. I'm getting ready to retire. The hell with it. What do you do? If it were up to me, I say stop the potential threat. You know what I mean? If the young man was innocent, he could have just stopped trying to evade the police. But he knew he had a weapon on him, so he tried to evade them. Right? So instead of stopping and preventing himself from getting into further injury, he ended up getting, unfortunately, hit by an SUV. So in my opinion, Trump did the right thing. Let them niggas go free. Let them go free. They don't deserve to be in jail over a mistake they made trying to protect a fucked up community. Excuse my language. But anybody from DC, especially if you're from uptown, you already know what's going on Kennedy Street. You know what's going on Kennedy Street. It's not a question. But see, that's the disconnect right there. Shout out to Sam. He says, I think this is where the community and police lack relationship. Yeah, it's definitely where it is. But at the same time, you gotta let the police do their job, bro. You gotta let them do their job. You see now the law's being changed. Now you can chase them. Now you can chase people on bikes and dirt bikes and all that stuff. It's been changed. Why? Because ever since this moment, back in 2020, the morale of the police in DC has been low. You can talk to any of them about it, and they'll tell you, off the record, they'll tell you, there ain't nobody about to go above and beyond. I got a good homie that's been a police officer damn near 20 years. I'm around the same time I've been a firefighter, right? Went to high school together. I asked him, what's the best thing to do, if you encounter, this is, man, he said, man, keep a gun. Keep a gun. Because there ain't nothing the police can do. Right? But, I mean, look, here's the thing. Why is it they are so disturbed about Trump's pardon for them? Right? They're so disturbed about Trump pardoning these two officers who made a mistake and should rightfully so be let out of prison. Why is this such a bad pardon? But they're not mad at Biden for pardoning this guy. Hold on, I'm gonna get to it. Biden pardoned this guy.
Yes, Lisa, for
Coverage you can count on begins with several complaints from people across.
Give me a second. I screwed that all up. Where's this at?
Yes, Lisa, for
Coverage you can count on.
This fucking thing. All right, here we go.
Yes, Lisa, former Judge Michael Conahan was at the heart of one of the country's biggest judicial corruption scandals. For his role, he was sentenced to serve more than 17 years behind bars. Now, his sentence was expected to end in August of 2026, but that has now changed due to the president's announcement.
It's been 15 years since 2 Luzerne County judges were accused of taking kickbacks in exchange for sending kids to privately run juvenile detention centers in the scandal now known as Kids for Cash. Former Judge Mark Chivarella and Luzerne County's former President Judge Michael Conahan were accused of shutting down the Luzerne County-run juvenile detention center and accepting millions from the builder and co-owner of 2 for-profit detention centers. The scandal is believed to have impacted the lives of more than 2,500 kids.
2,500 kids were illegally sent to prison so that this judge could make money and Biden pardon him. Nobody said a thing. Nobody said a thing. And now the news doesn't give it what the justice that it deserves. But the majority of the kids who were locked up under this judge were black. That's a fact. They were black kids. So you got a judge illegally throwing kids in prison for cash. Biden pardons him. And you got nothing to say. Wow. You got nothing to say.
Including whistleblower Hillary Transu, who we spoke with back in March in our Kids for Cash, the New Crisis series.
The kids that were affected by Chivarella, the people who were affected by him, they aren't mad because he took money. That's salt in the wound. What we're mad about is that he hurt us.
Back in 2010, Judge Michael Conahan pleaded guilty to a federal charge of racketeering conspiracy. He was sentenced to more than 17 years in prison. His sentence was scheduled to end in August of 2026 when he would be 74 years old. But now that's changed. As President Biden announced, Conahan is one of nearly 1,500 inmates to have their sentences commuted.
Insane. Insane. You cannot make this up. There is nothing you liberal Negroes can tell me at this point. Absolutely nothing. Okay? I mean, other than the death row inmates this nigga pardoned, and the pardons that he's given to his whole entire family for charges they haven't even received, I don't think anything takes the cake on this one. But Trump's the bad guys. He's the bad guy. Trump's the bad guy. Right. Anyways, I rest my case. All right? The phone lines are open. You can hit the link that I put in the chat or in the description if you'd like to join the conversation. All right? We're going to go to a quick commercial break and we'll come back to see if we have any calls. All right? All right, so give me a second. Quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Let's go.
Where have you been? 'Cause I never see you. Are you hiding from me? Somewhere in the
Up to it, down to it, for those who don't do it. Jungle Juice.
I've been everywhere, man, looking for someone.
Violent crime is surging in Louisiana. Woke leaders blame the police. I blame the criminals. A mom should not have to look over her shoulder when she's pumping gas. I voted against the early release of violent criminals, and I opposed defunding the police. Look, if you hate cops just because they're cops, the next time you get in trouble, call a crackhead. I'm John Kennedy, and I approve this message.
It doesn't matter what comes, fresh goes better in life. With mental fresh and full of life, nothing gets to you. Staying fresh, staying cool. With
Mentos, the fresh maker.
All right. And we're back. We're back. It looks like we don't have any calls, and that's fine. That's fine, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to just remind you guys, and this is for everybody watching, including those watching on the playback. Whether you agree, you disagree, or you're indifferent, do me a favor, leave a comment in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to hit that like button, tap that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and select all. And if you're feeling generous, you can hit me on the Cash App. That's right, you can hit me on the Cash App at $TrippinAintEasyTV, or go to the bottom of this on YouTube to the comment section, hit the super chat button, or if you're watching on the playback, hit the super like button. Any and all donations are well received. Other than that, man, I got nothing else for you. I think what I want to do, I'm going to come back on Tuesday, and we're going to take a deeper dive into DEI. We're going to take a deeper dive into that, because I feel like a lot more of that needs to be brought to the light. So I'm going to come back Tuesday. Like I said, I'm getting ready to skip out of town for a few days for a cheerleading competition. So when I get back Tuesday, we're back at it, man. So other than that, peace out. Catch you on the next one.